Welcome to the Fighting Irish Faithful podcast. Tuesday night, always Tuesday night, and around 9:30, Season 3, Episode 17, Volume 69 of the Fighting Irish Faithful show. I am Joe at Faithful_Irish on the Twitter, and tonight we are going to title this show Marcus Freeman's Midterm Examination. Now, I don't know exactly if Notre Dame students had midterms, but it always seems like that's some BS excuse that always comes out for coping and justifying poor performance on the turf. But anyway, I am at Faithful_Irish, as I said, and you can email me at fightingirishfaithful@gmail.com. And the reason why I'm plugging my contact here is I was approached by one of the Notre Dame faithful where, long story short, we have 4 tickets available to the UNLV game. So if anyone is interested, these are free, giving them away, but someone knew I had a contact and a voice out to the Irish faithful. So if anyone wants to go to the UNLV game, please reach out to me on Twitter, send me a DM at Faithful_Irish, or send me an email if you'd rather do that. I check it every day, fightingirishfaithful@gmail.com. These are good seats. There's 4 tickets. And if you want to go to a game, which hopefully Notre Dame comes out and pounds the Rebels of UNLV, this is the turning point, right? We're halfway through the season, and sure, I guess we can go down from here because we've got 3 fairly scary opponents on the horizon. But UNLV should be a pretty much guaranteed win, considering that they are a 95% probability that Notre Dame is going to win. So by far Notre Dame's easiest game on the schedule this season and remaining on the schedule. Anyway, we will go ahead and jump to our first guest. We'll go over to Jason here, because he was the first one to join. At JYager9 on the Twitter, you've been invited to speak. Now, hopefully Twitter doesn't wig out this time like it did last episode, where someone would jump on and then it would kick them off, but then they'd have to reboot on. It was weird. I don't know. Jason, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, welcome back. It's been a while. I haven't talked to you in a while on this show.
Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks. Work's been crazy.
I hear that. We had a busy week 2 weeks ago at work, and then we thought last week was going to be chill, and at the end of last week, we're like, oh, by the way, the customer's coming in, and you guys got to put a bunch of data and information together. And it's like, oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for the heads up. So
thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, we've been kind of scrambling the last couple of days here, but should go well. I think we're as prepared as we will ever be. So, well, anyway, we didn't talk to you after the Stanford game. What's your take? I think people have been able to digest, and I don't want to say still have calmer heads, but maybe they're a little more objective and a little less emotional, or maybe they're just so fired up now that it's like, all right, now I really will explain what I want.
Merriweather needs to be an every down back or every down receiver. Period.
Yep.
Cone. I almost called him Cone. Pine.
Freudian slip.
Yes. Pine. Can't throw the deep ball. He's got a rubber arm. And I think Reese is going to be some sort of coach in the NFL next season, and it's going to be a very nice breakup at the end of the season.
Yeah, I was tempted to go one of two ways with tonight's episode, and one was to really kind of rehash some of the Reese stuff about him coaching. But I decided against it because in order for me to personally do that right, I would want to go back to 2020, the end of 2020, after we lost to Alabama, and I was looking at the numbers and the details, and I said, what is letting us down this season? And it was the offense, and so therefore I pointed the finger at Reese. Now, I eventually walked it back after doing a little bit more analysis, but as time has gone on, I've just been like, man, maybe it's time to part ways. And I think that's a lot of the consensus.
And I don't put all the loss on him. You got to look at wide receiver talent and just not being there. We knew going into the season that the receivers weren't going to be top tier receivers this year, and you got to kind of play the way with what you got, and you can blame that on recruiting before this season. But Reese would have been in that room. How did Pine get a spot on the team? Reese would have been part of that recruiting.
Sure.
You've got receivers. He's the offensive coordinator. He would have been part of that recruiting. You can go on and on, other than running backs, which kind of we're getting the bet right now. We got the running back that just committed. That's going to be the highest rated running back we've gotten in how long, if ever.
Yeah.
Kind of recruits itself for Notre Dame is linemen and running backs.
Well, and especially now, because I'll let you finish here, but Notre Dame is running the ball a lot right now. We dipped down a little bit after this last game, but we're running the ball 58% of the time. That's huge.
And you have to. You can't trust the quarterback to make the correct read.
Right.
So I don't put all the blame on Reese. I think he's trying his best. He's trying to go with, there's stuff I don't agree with him, but he's trying to go with what they're giving him.
Yeah, I don't doubt that he's
still
trying.
need people to go through it.
Yeah, I do not doubt that he is trying at all and wants to do the best he can. My issue is like the situational crap, and I've got more to talk about that later on. But it's why does he not have the best players out there, right? Why at the end of the game, we don't have Merriweather and Styles in there at receiver with Mayer going out wide, just what, and then Estime didn't see much of the field, and I don't think he's getting enough, touches. A lot of what I'm kind of thinking is, and I've kind of broken this down, but yeah, like it's the decision making, and it's this whipsaw effect, and it's like there's no consistency, and like maybe he's trying to like outthink and out scheme the opponent, but at the end of the day, you have to try to score points, and your offense is not getting it done. And when we're ranked in the 90s and the hundreds in key offensive stats out of 131 teams, that's not good.
I agree 100%. But I think this season, I don't think it matters. They could go on and blow out everybody the rest of the season and score 40 a game, and I still think Reese is going. He doesn't seem to be the pushing recruiter that Freeman pushes for. He doesn't seem. He just wants to be the guy that outsmarts everybody. You said it perfect with that. I think he needs to get out of his own way, and sometimes he's just trying to out scheme everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is not football, yes, like there's some intelligence that's required, and probably a lot more so on the offensive side of things, because what you need to do makes sense. But the problem is what he does doesn't make sense. And, I'm not going to go back and break down specific plays, because we kind of did that in the post-game show. And anyone who wants to have a really good breakdown of, breaking down specific plays and scenarios and just kind of the what the fuck are we doing kind of response, I encourage everyone to go and listen to the latest episode that was done, I think published on Monday, by 5 Foot Nothing Pod. Uh, so Mike over at 5 Foot Nothing Pod, he is the Twitter shout out of the night, because I finally was able to catch up on some podcasts, listen to him, and he ended up just like doing his show, and he was so mad that he like was grabbing a metal trash can next to him and banging it, and it's just like this is garbage and this is trash, and it was so spur of the moment, and I was just cracking up, but it was also very appropriate, and a very appropriate, adequate metaphor for what we saw on Saturday against Stanford, a team that in Sagarin was ranked really, really poorly. They were ranked 59th. Okay. And, I mean, Stanford had the 121st rushing defense, and they were the 130th team in fourth down defense. And we still lost, and we're only able to put up 14 points. We only ran the ball 55% of the time. I mean, it's not terrible, but, like we only had 150 rushing yards, and Stanford looked like all-stars, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Estime didn't play very much. So Twitter shout out goes to 5 Foot Nothing Pod for that. But he had a good breakdown of specific instances within the game. Well, Jason, do you listen to the post game or press conferences throughout the week by Notre Dame coaches and players, or do you have a different opinion about all that?
I do listen to, or I more or less read kind of the snippets from the Notre Dame beat writers of what is said.
Okay.
Not as much. I don't listen to what they have their opinions. I forget what his name is, but he doesn't really give an opinion. He just says this is what he said. So I do listen and read that stuff. The one that I did listen to recently, driving 8 hours, I had plenty of time to listen to some stuff. I listened to Mike Greens.
Yes.
He used to be a linebacker.
Yes.
I listened to his, and he made a lot of good points with that. And stuff that I didn't even realize with the Reese, with having the connections to the NFL and his dad. And that's what kind of made me think that's really a good thought, is he is just grooming himself to go to that next level.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. But and that's kind of like odd, it's like, and I do not follow the NFL, I mean, I was lucky or fortunate, just kind of by happenstance that wife was doing some stuff, and I was watching the baby, and so we turned some football on, and so me and baby are playing, and we happened to catch the end of the Colts game. It was like a very rare occasion that I actually am like watching the local team here in Indianapolis and actually come out with a victory, which is kind of surprising. And the mood in town is better, I will say that, since I live in the greater Indy area. But, it's surprising, where it's like, and I don't know what the criteria is or the scheme or what gets you into the NFL as a coach. Maybe it's just, you just have a good agent and that's it. But I mean, if I'm being objective with our offensive stats right now, I'm not pleased. And Adam, I see you there. We'll get to you in a second here. There's one piece that Jason, you teed me up very nicely here, where Coach Freeman, and I didn't go back. I personally do not listen to his press conferences. I stopped listening to Kelly's in like 2016 when I was so pissed at him, and I realized it's all coach speak. And not that Freeman is like a sleazy politician the way Kelly really was, and that's the Kelly bashing element of tonight's show, his sleazy politician talk. Freeman's not doing that. I genuinely think he's up there and he just knows he has to say something, and he's not going to like throw Reese or one of his players or another coach under the bus. So he kind of uses a lot of like high level language, like, well, we just need to execute and stuff like that. Okay, fine. But from what I'm hearing from Twitter and from what I'm reading, on blogs and other stuff, and people are saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Coach Freeman is basically saying that the offense, he's not worried about it, or he doesn't really have a concern, and that's like they just need to execute. Coach Freeman, you are fucking ludicrous if you are saying that. Okay, this is probably the most critical I've ever been of him. You are fucking ludicrous if you think that our offense is not a problem. And here is why, and also here's why I'd be surprised if someone wanted to hire Reese right now as an offensive coordinator. This is our offensive stats right now. The number one most important stat is total touchdowns. We are 102nd in the country. Number two most important stat, passing touchdowns. We are 80th in the country. The number four most important stat, the number third offensive stat, scoring offense, 99th. It's a Wayne Gretzky ranking of scoring offense, and not like the good way because Wayne Gretzky is the greatest of all time. No, like it's terrible, okay? Scoring offense, 99th ranked out of 131 teams. Fourth most important offensive stat, rushing touchdowns, 96th. Fifth most important offensive stat, total offense, 80th. So your best stat is the 80th ranked offensive ranking out of 131 teams. And you're saying that the offense is not a problem or you're not concerned about it? Oh, by the way, passing yards, we're 102nd in the country. And then the stats I like to make up here and review, yards per point, we average 16 yards per point. National champions are 11.63. Rushing attempts per touchdown, we're very inefficient. 29.8 rushing attempts per rushing touchdown. Natties are about 16. Passing attempts per touchdown, we're 16.8. Surprisingly, it's the best of the three, considering that Drew Pine is just inefficient. And Natties are about 12. So, Coach Freeman, if you think the offense is not a problem, I don't know who your stat people are at Notre Dame, but you need to fire those idiots because whatever numbers they're giving you, it's completely wrong, okay? Because I know Coach Freeman is not going through on a spreadsheet in Excel and doing this shit and looking it up on CFB stats and comparing it to the rest of the teams in the country like I do. I don't expect him to do that, right? He's doing other important things. But at some point, you need to take a macro view of where your team is relative to, like, let's go back. What is college football about? College football is about ranking teams against each other, you versus your opponent. That's why there's a preseason ranking that everyone likes. And there's a college football playoff show that ESPN's going to do in a couple weeks here where they're going to start, have this committee and ranking and everyone's, oh, what's the ranking? And don't get me wrong. Everyone here knows that on Sunday, Monday, you're going to ESPN or CBS or Fox or whatever, choose your, favorite website. You are looking up the rankings of who's number one. Did Ohio State get up number one? How far did Alabama drop? Everybody is doing that. Everyone's curious about that and wondering where the hell Notre Dame is. And you will not see Notre Dame on there, which is why I go to Sagarin because it does rank everybody. Okay, that was a lot to digest there. Jason, let's bring you back on here to bring me back.
Deep breath.
I know. We have a scotch here. I was like, we killed off the Dewars, and so I went and grabbed an Ardbeg. I don't know if people saw that on Twitter. I didn't see too much traffic on that tweet.
Yeah, that looked wonderful. I actually something different because when I was in Tennessee, they don't sell it in Ohio, but Mountain Dew, the hard Mountain Dew.
Hard Mountain Dew?
Yes, Mountain Dew came out with an alcoholic drink.
Oh, talk dirty to me. Okay.
It's good. I'm very happy with, and it's zero sugar. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Weird.
So I had to get some, and that's what I'm drinking tonight.
There you go.
Trying that out.
Very good.
But
Well, so
Usually
wait,
it's
so that's
Johnny.
that weird combination of like caffeine and alcohol, which is like
No caffeine.
no caffeine. All right.
Yep, no caffeine, no sugar. It's actually
It's just alcohol and sweetness.
I'm gonna promote it for sure because it's better than I expected.
All right. Well, Jason, anything else you wanna share? I mean, I know you were at the Tennessee game, and I'm glad you found a replacement phone.
Yes. I was on the field and trying to take a video, got jacked up, and never found it again.
Oh, sad.
But I will say, the atmosphere there. I know it was for an Alabama-Tennessee game, so it was a very, very big game.
Yeah.
It's definitely different in SEC country. I will say
better.
That.
Be honest, because
Yes.
you've been to many games at Notre Dame. Is it better than Notre Dame Stadium?
It's so much better now.
Why?
Than it used, because they get into it more. You don't have everybody was up the entire
Good.
game. You weren't sitting. You weren't getting yelled at. You don't have. I mean, let's be honest. In the last 10 years, how much different it is going to a Notre Dame game. It's a lot quieter. It's a lot less of the stadium chants, the stadium involvement. You hear it's more over the loudspeaker than it is in the stands. It's you don't have the. I don't want to say the heart behind it, but the last time I was at a game that felt even anywhere close to this was the USC Notre Dame 05, the Bush push game.
Oh, geez.
That was the last time that I've been to a Notre Dame game that was even close.
Jeez.
And it wasn't, I mean, and it's still far behind what the atmosphere, it felt like your chest was going to burst the whole second half of that game.
Nice.
So it was definitely an experience that I would recommend anybody to go to an SEC game because they love their football.
Yeah. And you know, I listened to John at Always Irish, his latest show, and this is not a new thing, but he was out there, you know, basically, I don't want to say criticizing, but basically telling it like it is, that you've got people that are not into it, that are there for kind of a social thing and to hang out with other, you know, people, and, you know, say what you want about people with their money, you know, like, I don't really care too much about that. You know, it's their money. They earned it and the government didn't take it or whatever. But the point is, like, look, if you're going to be there, support the team, cheer for the team. And if other people are just standing and yelling, like, there's a fine line between being belligerent and disruptive and just being passionately cheering for our team. And sometimes, you know, you don't get that at Notre Dame. And some of the things that I think needs to happen at Notre Dame, look, I've got a kid, I'm cool with that, but I am not taking him to Notre Dame Stadium for many years because, you know, I just don't know what kind of environment it's going to be and he's going to get fussy. So I just don't want to have him have that experience and then have it just be a bad experience for everyone. But two, Notre Dame's doing this thing now, like at the beginning of the 1812 overture, instead of the band just doing their thing, they have like some kid like on the PA, you know, being interviewed on the Jumbotron saying like, "Go band, go." And like, it's cute. Is that really the environment we want at a Notre Dame football game? Like, we're there to dominate the other opponent here, not here to have it be Disneyland and recess with children saying, "Oh, go band." No. Like, Notre Dame, stop doing that shit, okay? Seriously. Stop it. It's making the environment worse at the stadium. I've been to 2 games this year. I don't like do that for the spring game. That's fine. It's very in the family, you know, it's quaint and quiet. Do that in the spring game. Don't do it when we're playing, you know, Clemson in a few weeks here. Don't do it. And I like kids, all right? I love children, okay? I've got one. I want more, okay? Don't do that in the stadium. All right, there's a time and a place for it. It's not during a football game. All right. Like there's little things like that Notre Dame needs to do. You know what they also need to do? They need to change up how they do the tickets. Okay, there needs to be a policy in the stadium that if you're in certain sections, okay, you should be allowed to stand, no problem. And if someone complains, they can take their complaint elsewhere. Say, no, this is a standing section. If people want to stand, okay, do it all in the end zones, okay. And then you can have the gold seats in the front. Those people paid a lot of money. Fine. You got the first 10 rows or whatever that are the gold seat people. Okay. But then the next halfway up the stadium needs to be standing. Okay. And that's it. The lower bowl, all in the end zones, at least halfway up, all standing. And then everything above that is, okay, the sit down people. And if they have to take out a couple of rows at Notre Dame Stadium to, if you're in the first row, quote unquote, of the sitting section, but everyone below you is the standing section, that's totally fine. You turn on any NFL game, what are people doing maybe not in LA, but in other areas? What do you think they're doing? They're standing. Can you imagine Lambeau Field where people aren't standing in the end zones? That's ludicrous. Okay? The black hole. Well, it's Vegas now. It's not as shitty as it was in Oakland, but like seriously, Notre Dame, change up how you're doing your fucking seats right now and just get rid of the benches because it's, forget that. But encourage people to stand. I'm dead serious about this. You encourage people to stand, you'll increase the noise of the stadium. You have a better stadium environment. Hey, maybe the team gets a spark and, it's like, wow, this is kind of more of a hostile environment. Okay. Don't put any of the visitors near the field. I don't care if it's the parents or the president of, Boston College. Put his ass up in the corner with everyone else. That's fine. I don't care. You got a seat. You're lucky you have one. It's up in the top corner. I don't care. Don't put them near the field. And if they're really that important, they should be on the field with their team. One man's opinion. I think I'm more fired up tonight than I was after the game. Gosh. And I don't know.
I'm glad I could hit some strings with you, brother.
Yeah, what are you doing here? All right, you're triggering me. All right, let's go over to Adam Dowling. Jason, you can stay on, but let's get Adam. You've been invited to speak. Thank you, Jason. Adam _ Dowling 1 on the Twitter. Welcome back.
How about this? You got me all worked up now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I offend you?
Score a touchdown, get an interception, recover a fumble, get a sack, and maybe give us something to cheer about. Maybe that's a good idea. You
know what? I'm glad you brought that up because I wrote that down here in my paper and I went over it. You're 100% right. If you're in that stadium and you're a passionate fan like I know you are, and the missus and anyone who is at this game, there are people who spent good money, spent all day for this team that they love, and it's really, really hard to do that when the team is just not getting it done. The coaches are calling shitty plays and not having the right personnel in there. You're 100% right. The crowd can start with high energy, but when the offense goes out on the first fucking play with a false start, what do you think that's going to do? And then they go 3 and out, like, oh, wow, okay.
3 and out, and then Stanford just drives the ball all the way.
Yep.
Scores a touchdown.
Yeah.
I looked at my paper, and my wife says, oh, my God, the energy in here is awful. And I said, this is going to be bad. And
yeah.
Right out the gate.
Yeah, yeah.
You could just tell. When my wife can tell the energy is awful after that. I mean, come on.
She I think, has some she's pretty savvy on some things. It sounds like she planned some decent vacations for you. So, just
yeah, and she's been in the stadium enough to know when the energy is good and when it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we go to every game. So
yeah, you've got a good sample size there.
So it's awful. And then after, I think just like you, I'm getting more angry like as the days go on, just because how like you said, like Freeman, I love Freeman. I want him to be so successful, but
I wanted Kelly to be successful, but yes, I agree with you. I want Freeman to be successful.
Hearing him talk like, oh, I watched the film and I feel a lot better about the offense, or like,
he's out of your fucking mind.
You're nuts. Like, you have to score points to win anything us as Notre Dame fans care about. You have to score. And it's the offense. Ever since even Reese has been here, it is like almost like a boring pro offense.
The 99th scoring offense in the country is nothing to be okay with. There is nothing okay about that.
Like ground and pound is going to win you anything it just is out of my mind. It's not, you might be able to win, 9 and 10 games every year, but aren't we trying to get past that?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Look, what did I say? I went on my little rant earlier about what is college football about. It's about ranking teams. This is why I compare Notre Dame to national champions. No other show does this, okay? And that's no criticism of other people. We're happy to plug other people all the time. My point is, no other show will take a step back and is willing to compare Notre Dame to the Clemsons of yore, the Alabamas of recent days, and even Ohio State. And God forbid if Michigan keeps winning the way we do, I'll have to compare Notre Dame to Michigan. And I don't want to do that, okay? Please lose. Please shit the bed. Michigan, I hate you. But seriously, if I compare Notre Dame to these other schools, why is Notre Dame not winning? Well, let's see. What are the guys that are winning doing? They're top 10 in 3 offensive stats. Total touchdowns.
In recent history, the only team that's actually won anything that we care about that didn't have this amazing, and their numbers probably were good at the end of the year, but it took Georgia to have the best defense in recent history to win with their offense.
Yeah.
Like, Georgia, I don't know, their numbers might have been better, but most of the other
they
teams
were actually
better.
pretty good. Yeah. Last year they were 5th in total touchdowns and 6th in passing touchdowns and 9th in scoring offense. So still top 10 in those 3 categories.
Yeah. And it took them to have a generational amazing defense.
You know who was actually one of the worst was Alabama of 2011, believe it or not. They were 25th in total touchdowns, 76th in passing touchdowns, and 20th in scoring offense.
Saban was a ground and pound guy and played defense, and then
that's the thing. That team was number 1 in scoring defense, number 1 in total defense, number 1 in rushing defense.
And when he lost to Clemson, he flipped and said, "We got to score."
Yeah.
He was smart enough to know we got to change this.
Absolutely.
And then you watch this. Like I said, we go to a lot of games, and when you see talent on that field, like big time talent, just in recent history, I'll just say like Kyle Hamilton. As soon as he played, you knew it. You knew that guy was a dude.
Yeah.
Michael Mayer, you knew it. You knew that guy was a dude. When Georgia played at Notre Dame, when you saw Roquan Smith play that close, you knew that guy was awesome. Or how about the receiver from USC, London? You saw that guy? Unbelievable.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yep. I saw 2 plays. I'm seeing Merriweather play, and I see the way he runs routes and jumps and catches that ball, and how he hasn't been playing with our receiver corps is beside me.
Yeah.
It makes me angrier after I got home from the game and saw some highlights on TV and watched and just see him, how smooth he looks. How is he not playing?
Yeah, I agree. Well, and he's not even on the field, right? So, like, if he's not on the field, he can't be productive, right?
Yeah.
It's so bad.
The last time you saw a Notre Dame guy run a route like he did on that touchdown, go up, catch that ball? It just looks so smooth.
Yeah, it was really good. It was a nicely placed ball by Pine. It wasn't terrible. Okay. And it was in a location that his receiver could get it away from the safety, which is fantastic. It's what you're supposed to do. So like Pine, like I don't want to shit all over him, and at the same time it's like, well, without Pine this season, then what are we going to do, right? Like, and I know that's kind of a defeatist woe is me approach, but seriously, realistically, what are we going to do now 6 games into this season with at least 6 left, right? Ideally 7, but we have to win a few more. My point is this, and I'm glad you brought this up, and then we're going to jump over to a few other people here, Adam. I don't know if anyone saw this on Twitter, and I saw this yesterday, Monday afternoon. Notre Dame already released the depth chart of the UNLV game. Does anyone else think that's weird or stupid or wrong? Like, do we not even evaluate this team and how they practice this year or this week?
Well, they normally do every Monday. That's
why? Why?
I don't know. It's kind of like a press conference, like just a thing.
Why do they have to do that?
I don't think they have to. Maybe this is something they do. I don't know.
Why? That's stupid. Like, so this
Merriweather's not even on it.
And that's why I bring this up. And that's why it got so much attention and flack on, and I gave some shit to Notre Dame's Twitter handle. I'm sorry, I don't usually give them crap, but I did this week. I was really sarcastic. I'm like, why the F are you guys releasing a depth chart without one of your best receivers even, listed in the top, 2 or 3 or whatever? And this is the only guy who caught a passing touchdown for you last game.
And he should have had 2.
He should have had 2.
And we complain about our receivers like not good, not getting open. This guy plays a couple plays and he's wide open whenever he wants.
He's able to use his athletic ability and get open in space. And so I was like, why the hell are they releasing a depth chart on Monday after one damn practice when they still have, it's a home game, so they'll do walkthroughs on Friday, in the practice stadium or whatever. Well, it's really a cathedral they built for them. That building's huge and nice. But seriously, release it on Thursday, Friday, right? Thursday would make sense. Maybe Wednesday. Okay. But like, what if people get injured and shit? Or what if someone slacks off, or what if there's some other disciplinary thing? I don't know. There's 100 different reasons of why you wouldn't release a depth chart.
Yeah.
And you don't have one of the more talented receivers that everyone is talking about, saying this guy needs to play more. This guy needs to play more. No, we're going to put other people who are less productive.
We're going to put Matt Salerno out there instead.
Yeah, and I like Matt Salerno. He's been a loyal disciple. I'd get his jersey if I could. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm serious. Like, why the hell is that happening? I don't know.
Yeah. This is the whole question with the coaching, like what I started my rant on with Reese and Freeman about the offense. Like, how does everybody see that? I mean, it's so easy. Do you watch the man run one post route and you're like, this guy is by far the most talented guy on the roster. So how is he not running a couple fades down the end zone or a post route? Like multiple times a day, game, they're running a deep ball to him or throwing it up. Like it is just, it's besides me. Like it's insane to me. It'd be one thing if we had like Boykin and Claypool like in front of him, but there's nobody in front of him.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Name the more talented, better, more productive receiver. So.
Yeah. I've seen this guy run a couple routes and I can tell right now that this guy needs to be playing a ton.
I agree.
And he would open everything up. He would open everything up for Mayer because they wouldn't be able to bracket Mayer in the middle with the safeties because they'd be scared to death that this guy's going to run over the top of them.
Yeah. Well, Red Snapper has jumped on here. He's co-host has returned. Hello, Red Snapper. Are you there?
I am. I'm just sitting back listening to the boil that I'd started on Saturday night kind of kick off with you guys. So, honestly, I'm baffled. Like you guys were just talking about the depth chart. I saw the same thing. And I know you're not a follower of the NFL, but they protect that. Any injuries, like there's a reason why they wait an hour and a half before game day, game time kickoff to release their final, health report with everybody, because that changes the game plan. I'll look at it straight from a standpoint of, if I'm UNLV and now I know what your depth chart is, now I can scheme for who's where. I don't like the fact that we're telling everybody, hey, these are our guys. It's absolute BS. And the part that, for Merriweather to not even be on it, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. At this point, I'm looking at production, and I'm sorry, I would have Thomas as my X, and I would have, obviously, Mer as my Y, and I would have Merriweather as my Z. And that would be my wideouts. I'm sorry. I'd be running 3 running backs in and out in a spread formation, and until somebody else can prove they deserve it in game day production, sorry.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's something I wanted to look at, because when I saw the depth chart and I saw that Merriweather wasn't on there, I was like, hold the fucking phone. This guy just caught the longest pass, a 41-yard pass or whatever it was in this game, and like on his only one catch, and he was, I think, targeted only the other time that it was like a couple feet away from his hands, whatever. But I went and looked up who are the most productive people on this offense, and using that as a guide to establish the starting lineup and set the standard going forward. Clearly, you have Estime and Mayer. Estime has 484 yards and 5 touchdowns, all on the ground. Mayer has 411 yards from scrimmage and 5 touchdowns. So they both have the same. Sidebar, they're both tied with 30 points with Blake Groupie, so that's kind of interesting. Usually the kicker always has, the most points, but they're tied with the kicker, okay? So clearly you have Pine, the quarterback, the 5 offensive linemen, and then these 2 guys that need to be in all the time, okay? So then what does that leave you, okay? You have 8 guys already accounted for, 5 linemen, a quarterback, and a tight end, and a running back, which leaves 3 remaining spots. Now, what's Notre Dame's best weapon, or what are they most successful at right now on this offense that's complete crap? It's still the rushing offense. It's not great. Okay, we only have 8 rushing touchdowns, which is really sad. Okay, but our rushing yards, it's not terrible. Okay, we're 50th in the country, right? When we it's like average. It's like C+ here. Okay. But look, it is what it is compared to passing and some of these other things that I talked about and ranted about earlier. That is what is the best. So therefore, put the better athletes out there. Rotate Tyree and Diggs in there. And I would put 2 running backs in at the same time. Doesn't mean they both have to be in the backfield, although I like I formations and split backs and offset backs, wing T shit. Put them out in the slant. It doesn't matter, okay? But give the running backs to do the jet sweeps if you want to do a jet sweep, or that reverse toss, counter toss thing, which I haven't seen all season, which is bull crap. Okay?
Doesn't that just scream Tyree to you?
I agree. Or Diggs even, And then I'll get back to that. But then you have 2 openings for receivers or a tight end. You can get cute with that. And that's where I say throw Merriweather in, or Styles, or Thomas. Now, this is my order of priority of the 4 receivers that are essentially available. And I'm not including Matt Salerno. Sorry, buddy, but you're a walk-on for a reason. Okay, we like you, but no, there's no way you have more talent than Merriweather, Styles, Thomas, or Lindsey. But Lindsey, I went back and I looked at these guys when they were recruited and what was the quote-unquote score, the composite score they got. Okay, Lindsey, he came in 2018, so he's taking advantage of the COVID year, I think. I don't know. So Lindsey was a 91, and he was listed as an athlete. Thomas was actually an 89.9. Styles, 94.7. Merriweather, 95.1. Merriweather has a higher rating than Kyron Williams. Go and look it up. Merriweather has a higher rating on 24/7 Composite than Kyron Williams. Imagine that shit. And he is not on the fucking depth chart.
Here's another thing that I don't get. If he clearly has the athletic ability, and maybe it's a question of mentality, and he doesn't know the offense, how hard is it in the huddle to tell him, run a fade?
Run a fade. Gee whiz.
Run a post corner. How freaking hard is it? Run a 7. Like, it's not hard to take somebody and get them into the offense.
Receiver is literally the easiest, one of the easiest positions for an athlete to pick up. You just run into open space, and good quarterbacks really find it. And yes, there's some elements to route running and how to make cuts and how to get separation at the line of scrimmage. Fine. Okay.
But he has that score because he already knows that stuff.
Of course, because that's shit you learn in high school. And then in college, it just gets faster and maybe it's a little more complicated with, the different formations and shit like that, right? But in general, as far as what he actually does during said play and what he's reading, okay, maybe he has to read what defense is getting at him. And depending on that, he cuts his route off early or extends it, whatever it is. Okay, that's different. But honestly, him and Styles and Thomas should be in that rotation. Okay. And I would not put Lindsey in there. Lindsey is still going to stay on a milk carton here. I need to make like a GIF or something, or a meme of Lindsey's face on a milk carton. I know it sounds kind of mean, but seriously, where is Raiden Lindsey? I'm waiting for you, buddy. And at this point, look, your time is up, okay? And he's also not being targeted very much, but maybe there's a reason for that. I don't know. So, I don't know.
I'm baffled. And why, if he's as fast as he, everybody says he is.
We've been promised this for years.
Why isn't he returning kickoffs? Why is he not returning punts?
That's an interesting point. Yeah, is Brandon Joseph run a faster 40?
I doubt it.
I doubt it too.
Why is Brandon Joseph returning every punt? Or, 25% of the punts.
At least he's not taking fair catches like
on the 3-yard line.
I know. Gosh, wasn't Salerno back there fair catching punts at one point?
It was.
Someone else used to fair catch punts a lot too, and it was another walk on. Maybe it was just Salerno. I don't know. Someone else here will keep me honest. But seriously, that was irritating when I looked that up. I was like, where is Merriweather from a talent standpoint? Because I know he's high. Okay, and we've kind of been light on the wide receiver recruiting, but I wanted to know where he was relative to the other guys. And the only people that are higher than him are like Mayer, at least on the offensive side. And that's it. So on this team. So I
have something on Lindsey.
No. Yes, go ahead.
With Lindsey, he's more of that. I mean, they said it after the spring game and all off season is he's the deep threat. He's the guy that's going to run out there, just run past everybody and then just throw it up to him. The problem is Pine can't get it to him. He's not. He's targeted him a few times deep early in the season and just missed.
Yep.
So I don't put all the blame on that, but now that we know what this offense is, Lindsey's going to be a non-factor. That's pretty much all he is.
Well, and sure. And so maybe it's but see, here's the thing, and I'll counter that, not to be rude or anything. If Lindsey is so fast that Pine can't get him the ball, why do the coaches not fucking know this? Why do they not know the limits of Pine's arm strength depending on what it's a 5-step drop or whatever it is, okay, why do they not know the limit of his arm strength and therefore call plays and routes or whatever and coach Lindsey and Pine to run plays and routes that are cohesive and symbiotic? Okay.
Yeah, that's
That's my problem.
Lindsey should be running backside, posts that are late developing so that he is within Pine's arm distance.
Yeah. And
God forbid you put a freshman at the X and put Lindsey at the Z. Holy crap.
Like, I wouldn't even do that. Like, I honestly would put Lindsey in there, like, when someone like loses a shoe. Like that's what it's coming down to. Like, oh, your helmet came off. You got to sit out for a play. Shit, grab someone. Lindsey, you're decent. Go in there. Like, that's really what it's come down to. I would rotate Styles and Thomas any day right now before Lindsey because their upside is so much higher. And furthermore, if I take a step forward, look at productivity. How many touchdowns do these guys have versus Lindsey? Lindsey has 0. Styles and Thomas both have 1. I mean, I realize it's 1, but 1 is better than none. And so it's like, look, you have to give, the ball. We're halfway through the season, guys. We're halfway through the season. All right. The writing is on the wall of who, like, what, someone's going to have a breakout game next. I mean, maybe against UNLV because they suck. More to come on that. Don't jinx it. We said that about Marshall too and Stanford, and look what fucking happened. Yeah, exactly. So, and we are susceptible to UNLV. More to come on that. But Adam's freaking out. He's like, "Don't say that." At least Adam doesn't have to watch the game on Peacock. Okay.
No, I'll be there. But that's the scary part with this coaching staff. Like, think about the struggles at receiver, and then Merriweather gets in there. He seriously gets his first. I mean, I know he's been in there a couple plays, but his first action where they're actually throwing him the ball, and this guy is wide open, and they hit him, and he looks so smooth. He almost looks like an NFL receiver, like just his route running and the way he moves his long arms. And these other guys have done nothing for 6 games.
Yep.
And they won't give him any more time. Like it's insane to me to think that this is what our coaches chose to go with these other guys. And the other thing with coaching is his styles got worse this year than he was last year.
I just don't think he's been targeted enough. And and that would be an interesting analysis to do. And maybe I'll do this in a tweet. Look at Styles and his productivity, last year, the first 6 games last year, versus where he's at now. But here's the thing. I don't think we really saw much of Styles until the latter half of last year, in my opinion, if memory serves me right.
He came on at the USC game, I remember.
Yeah.
So the same week as Merriweather is now. And
he looked halfway decent in the bowl game, I remember. And so, we'll have to go look at Styles question mark here. That'll be some homework for me.
Think about it. Styles and why am I brought Styles and Mayer and Merriweather and why am I drawing a blank on the
and bring Thomas in?
Thomas should be good enough for you, and you have 3 offensive linemen that are going to be NFL guys, and you have good backs. That should be good enough to beat 10. You should be able to have way more talent than 10 teams you play.
Well, and I don't.
Here's another thing that I don't get is knowing that Mayer is going to take a lot of priority in defensive coverage. Why are we not lining him up in the slot and letting whoever the receiver is just mirror him? Double slants on that side. One of them is going to be open.
Yeah, that was my point. You just Red Snapper just jumped on towards the end of my earlier rant. It was with Merriweather there. He can run deep posts over the top, and those safeties cannot bracket Mayer then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they will be scared to death of him running over the top. Right now, nobody's scared of any of our receivers threatening them deep.
Well, and the route running, and I don't know if this is receiver coaching or play calling, so is this on Chauncey Stuckey? Is this on Tommy Rees? I don't know. But regardless, we can't have guys running into each other or stacked upon each other in like the line of sight of the quarterback, right? Penetrate the open field. And what did we complain about in the post game? Guys are not in space. They're not catching the ball in stride. They're like just running it with the defender. And it's like you're making it harder for your quarterback to be effective as a passer. So,
yeah.
well, here let's bring Mark It Down in. He's been very patient. He's got a picture of BK with loser. I love it. At Holzem35, you've been invited to speak. Holzem Zem 35. Are you there? You've been invited to speak on the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Everyone awaits your rant or comments and commentary. If not,
what
we'll
up,
move
family?
on. Family!
What up, family? What I
What?
missed? I was late.
Well, we had some expletives earlier and some me saying that Marcus Freeman is effing ludicrous. So
About which part?
about the offense being not of concern.
Man, I listened to that yesterday, and I've got concerns.
You're of like-minded people.
It's like BA to. I mean, the overuse of execution. That's got to stop.
Oh, it's all coach speak.
But at least he didn't say we got to coach better, but they do need to coach better. So, I just want to say some just a raw emotion in his pressers. It's whoever's writing his script, they need to go to.
Some Notre Dame Illuminati person, right? They've got the puppet strings in the background, and then they insist that people do not stand, right? During the games, right? Well, mark it down. I've got to go. We'll do a little guest trivia here. Put you on the spot here, if that's okay. So we're halfway through the season, which is kind of depressing because we all look forward to Notre Dame football all year. Well, I do. I won't speak for everyone else. But so we're halfway through the season, and I wanted to know. We've had we're 3-3. Oh, and we lost Mark. So, all right, first person to unmute gets the question. Oh, Mark's back. I think he just had to hit his thing here. We'll bring him back. Holzem35, Twitter's freaking out. Looked like also you were talking on the moon there for a second. Holzem35, are you back, sir?
I'm back.
All right, sorry about that.
I don't know what happened.
There's probably a solar flare wherever you're at. Or you know what it was? The powers that be didn't like that we were talking bad about the Notre Dame Illuminati. So Notre Dame Illuminati, praise be your name. Okay. I wanted to break down Notre Dame's scoring quarter by quarter versus their opponents. So, so I went through and looked up Notre Dame's opponents, all right? Quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. And how many points they've scored in each quarter, and then compare that to our opponents. So, Mark, take a stab. I'm assuming your name is Mark. Mark, take a stab. In which quarter is Notre Dame scoring most of their points?
I'm going to guess third quarter.
Close.
Is that right?
That's close.
I said the second. The second.
It's this red snapper.
Yeah, I was going to say end of the second quarter or beginning of the third quarter is where we score the most.
Dominated by far. Second quarter, 42% of all of Notre Dame's points this season have come in the second quarter. 60 points. Which is kind of surprising and weird, but it's like, okay, it is what it is. Now, on the flip side of that, which quarter is Notre Dame scoring the least amount of their points?
First.
Yes, first quarter, right? So we start off really slow. That's really evident by the false start that Adam had to witness to and roll his eyes behind his skull as he sees that. And so I graphed this out. We go from 6 points to 60 points, 35 points, then back up to 41. If this does not illustrate this team, I don't know what does. We start off real shitty, slow, don't have our shit together, and then all of a sudden, we have to put it in high gear, and bam, we then go up to 60, and then we kind of slack off in the third quarter, and we reduce that by almost half, and then it's fourth quarter, and then bam, we got to study for the final, and okay, so if you break that down,
combine that with how many points we're giving up in the fourth quarter.
Okay,
on defense.
We'll come back to that real quick. You're leading the witness here, so objection. But so I also wanted to break it down percentage wise. 4% in the first quarter, 42% in the second quarter, 25% in the third quarter, and 29% in the fourth quarter. So there's kind of this seesaw heart rate looking graph here if you put that out. Now, you kind of alluded to this, and you're savvy. That's why we have you on this show, and you're welcome anytime. And anyone's welcome anytime, right? You know, we still have not had an opposing fan on the show. Well, we did have that one LSU dude who tried to talk shit about Notre Dame and praise Brian Kelly, but then he jumped off. So that wasn't that doesn't really count because we didn't
I have fun with LSU fans on Twitter. It's all good.
Oh, I'm sure they're not really sure what's happened to their world right now. But what's interesting is if I compare Notre Dame on a graph to their opponents this season, so you kind of alluded to this, but I'll ask the question anyway. Which quarter do our opponents score the most of their points? So far, 6 games in.
Which quarter do the opponents score the most? I'm going to say the fourth.
Fourth quarter, that's correct. They've scored 43 points in the fourth quarter. Now, of our opponents, which quarter do they score the least amount of their points?
Second, maybe. Second or third?
Close. It's the first quarter. And what's interesting about this is they've scored 27, 29, 33, 43. It's a straight linear trend up. Our opponents are getting more and more confident. They're getting their rhythm. They're getting more momentum. And as the game goes on average in these first 6 games, our opponents are getting better as the game goes on. Notre Dame is shitty, then they're really high, then they're really low, and then and then it makes the fourth quarter really interesting. Which is interesting when you compare it to how Notre Dame is on scoring offense. Right now, Notre Dame is scoring on average 23.7 points a game, but then they're giving up 22. That's only a scoring margin of 1.7, which makes really nail-biting games, which is irritating against a team like Cal.
Yep.
So I wanted to, I know that's kind of like a gimme throwaway like stat thing, but I think this year it says a lot about what Notre Dame is doing as a program that's allowing our opponent to kind of stay in it. And I don't want to like say the defense is doing bad because like if we compare the defensive stats to the offensive stats, it's way better. Like scoring defense, 22 points in the country, that's not terrible. That's actually like in the B range. We rank 36th in scoring defense, right? We're 39th in total defense. Okay. We're 26th in sacks per game. So the defense is pretty decent. It's like B. Okay. If I had to give it a letter grade, it'd get a B. Okay.
I'd agree with that, but the tackling has gotten worse.
It has, but I'm and you're 100% right, and I don't want to like belittle what you're saying. I'm just saying I'm taking kind of more of a macro zoomed out view of the overall production or lack thereof that our defense is doing on the field, and what they're limiting our current opponents. And maybe this is misleading because some of these opponents, Stanford, North Carolina, they have offensive weapons, but Cal is not good. Marshall's not good, and we lost to 2 of these teams. So, we lost to Ohio State too, but everyone knows they're really good and they're number 1 in the country and they probably deserve to be there.
They had great defense in that game, though. I can't knock that.
Yeah.
But as we've gone along, like I said this previously last week, that I'm seeing the defense regress. And we all thought the offense was getting better, but we just got shocked again Saturdays. So they just got to get better on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
I think special teams is the only thing we can rely on at this point.
Which is really a juxtaposition from the old Kelly days, right?
Absolutely. We actually have a kicker that can kick it.
Yeah. Well, and those are some of the best transfers we've had, right?
That's right. Our kicker's from Sedalia, Missouri. Pretty close where I'm at.
That's right. The one thing...
Sedalia, Mo.
The one thing I wanted to look up here... damn it. What is this? I hate how when you look up coaches at Notre Dame, they have like Tommy Rees. It doesn't just say offensive coordinator and quarterbacks. It says John and Bobby Arlotta family offensive coordinator. I don't give a shit that you gave a ton of money to Notre Dame. I really like Marcus Freeman. It doesn't say head coach. It says Dick Corbett head coach. And I'm sure Dick Corbett's a really swell guy, but I don't care about that. No one else does. Okay? Fuck. Stop. I just want to know, who these coaches are.
Yeah, Kelly did it for the tax write-off, though. Pretty sure, but
Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. So, okay, let's get back on track. Mark, you've been around here for a while, and I'm not trying to have you spill the beans here, but not everyone listens to every podcast or is unable to. What do you think is wrong with Notre Dame right now, or what do they need to improve on?
There's just too many. It's a combination of a bunch of little things all at one time. But I think the biggest thing is that the players just don't have the mentality to go out there and embarrass their opponent. I think that's the biggest thing. I think I said that last time, is that our O-line doesn't have the fire to just knock a mismatched Stanford D-line back on their ass, that's what I'm seeing. It's just they don't have the killer attitude to just flat out embarrass the opponent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really an X's and O's kind of thing, even though those are issues. I think the problems are deeper than that as a program. It's the mentality. It's another part is our fan base, which I can get into that if you want to, but
sure.
The biggest thing is the attitude of this team.
I put a lot of this on the coaches. I told Marcus Freeman that he's ludicrous for thinking the offense is fine or not really a problem, and it's people just have to get it done. And I think John at Always Irish put it beautifully, where he said, if you just say it's execution, then that makes it sound like it's just the players not getting it done. And I'm not convinced about that. When you have your most prolific guys who are being most productive not in at key moments of the game, that's unacceptable. It's terrible. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so I put more of the responsibility of the outcome of all of this on Coach Freeman.
Right. So I've been a Notre Dame fan since '98. I think the lowest that I've ever felt was that 2007 season, 3-9. That was probably the worst, but here we are. And I don't feel like it's 07 at all, because in 07 you had no hope.
Correct.
You had Jimmy Clausen back there just getting sacked,
Getting murdered
over and over, getting sacked over and over, and you just had no hope. Yeah. This doesn't feel like 07. These are self-inflicted wounds, easily correctable, but for some reason they're just not being corrected in what we're seeing on the TV screens on Saturday. For whatever reason, I think the whole entire fan base is at a loss. The coaches are at a loss. But from my chair on Saturdays, I'm seeing things that are easily correctable. Drew Pine ain't going to be some, Brady Quinn Heisman finalist. Let's not give him too much credit here. He is going to be, at best, an Ian Book, okay? But
at best,
he is doing some just dumb things out there. Just he's staring down Michael Mayer, not going through progressions. And you would think that Tommy would have taught him to throw the damn ball past the sticks on 4th down, right?
Correct.
I mean, what are you doing, Drew? Come on. You're better than this.
Well, and I think part of that, too, is the receivers not adjusting their routes to down and distance. Why are you running a 5-yard route when you need 7 yards?
Correct. And that's on coaching,
Drew,
right? The coaches need to beat that into them.
Drew Pine should know that ain't going to get it, so air it out. Your receiver's too dumb to run past the sticks. Don't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty abysmal at times. So, and we're halfway through the season, and we've got three real tough opponents coming up. I mean, look, we got UNLV and Navy and BC, and look, we could slip up on any 3 of those teams. But Syracuse, Clemson, USC, they look really, really scary right now. Oh my gosh. I mean, all 3 of those teams are ranked really well. Per Sagarin, SC is 7th in the country. Clemson is 8th in the country. And Syracuse.
But I think if we focus on ourselves, that doesn't matter, though. If we play like we're supposed to be playing, we can play with anybody up there, with the exception of Alabama and probably Tennessee right now. But we need to focus on ourselves and doing the things that we can control. And I got faith that we can win those games if we do what we can do to the best of our abilities. That's up to the players and the coaches to figure out.
Yep, I like that.
We all know what the problem is.
Man of faith.
We all know what the problem is. They all know what the problem is, hopefully. At least we've all been telling them what the problem is. Whether they want to swallow their pride and admit that we're all right. Maybe Tobias should have been playing this entire time, Tommy, but, hopefully they got some faith in him now. But one thing I do want to talk about is this fan base of the past 48 hours, though. If we can jump into that.
Sure.
What I'm seeing is our fans, some of them, not all, the majority of them are pretty smart and realize what's going on.
And you're referring to people on Twitter.
Correct. Some of them are saying, well, just making these excuses of how the players need to adjust to the new coaches, and it's going to take time, process. I'm like, bro, this is Marshall and Stanford at home.
Correct.
There are growing pains expected, yes, but those growing pains are against Ohio State, Clemson, USC, maybe North Carolina,
good
maybe
teams.
Syracuse, maybe BYU. Okay. You want to blame process and transition and all this stuff when we're playing Marshall
Yeah.
and Stanford?
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry, but no. There is no transition, to be quite frankly.
Anyone who defends like the outcome or justifies like something with a loss to this Stanford team that's really, scraping the bottom of the barrel to pull themselves out of the shithole that Stanford program is in right now. They're terrible, okay? And we lost to that terrible dumpster fire of a program on Saturday at home.
You see people saying, well, it's a transition. But what's the transition? Marcus Freeman was there last year.
Yeah, define transition.
Tommy Reese was there last year, and it's the same damn scheme. What are you talking about transition to get used to?
Why is the offense so terribly worse? And yes, Kyron Williams not there right now, and I realize that. But you have 3 very capable running backs, and Estime, who should be in there all the time and be getting 20 carries a game. That's not on transition. That's on coaching, right?
Mm-hmm. We used Kyron as another lineman pass blocking last year. I mean, go back and watch the tape of the Clemson game when we beat them in 2020. You see Kyron just balling out back in the backfield, just pass blocking. We're gonna get Clemson knows that this year when they come back, they're gonna be sending them up the middle to get Drew Pine, and I hope our running backs are in for the challenge because they coming.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, have you seen the comparison of? Since you're talking about the fan base and people trying to justify something that they really shouldn't be justifying, how many times have you seen the comparison of Marcus Freeman to Lou Holtz's first 6 games?
I've seen it, but I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. I mean, that was so long ago. The game's changed.
I agree.
Like, all that's a bunch of crap because I've seen it too with Saban and Dabo and I forget who else. But Marcus Freeman and Tommy Reese were handed an 11-1 football program.
Yes.
Not a dumpster fire.
Correct.
So you can't compare any of that. So that's all a bunch of bullshit.
That's a very valid point you guys make because I did an analysis and Red Snapper will keep me honest here, but it was one of the earlier episodes this year where I compared what coaches who were coming in to their program and what they inherited, and then eventually how many years it was in said program that they turned things around and won a title and things of that nature. So go back and listen to that if you want to get that piece. But I kind of took a different perspective from you guys. I agree that 1986 was a very, very long time ago. The doc was actually born in that year, so that's kind of funny. So I've been reminding her that she's past her mid-30s now. But anyway, Holtz in his first 6 games was 2-4. Freeman was 3-3. And then I was like, okay, well, what kind of stats can we compare, right? Because that's what we do on this show, right? Scotch and spreadsheets, right? We've got the Ardbeg, but we got the spreadsheets here now that we're going to do a little bit more. Points for Notre Dame. Holtz, in his first 6 games, scored 129 points. Coach Freeman, 142, so advantage to him. So you break that down to scoring offense. Notre Dame is better, 23.7 versus Holtz, 21.5. Now, opponent's points. Holtz, 94 points. Coach Freeman, 132. So scoring defense advantage to Holtz, 15.7 versus Freeman's 22. So a plus 5.8 margin for Holtz versus Coach Freeman's current margin of victory, 1.7. Now, largest victory. Holtz in 86, a 41-9 beatdown of Purdue. Take that, Purdue. A 32-point advantage victory for Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame this season, largest victory, North Carolina, 45-32, plus 13. Not as impressive. Now, largest defeat, Marcus Freeman, Ohio State, minus 11. Notre Dame, under Holtz, largest defeat in the first 6 games, Alabama, lost 10-28, minus 18 points. Now, here's the thing. Alabama, when they played, they were the number 2 team in the country. When Notre Dame started in 86, their first game, does anyone know who that was against? It was against Michigan, and they were ranked 3rd. So I didn't do the strength of schedule and any of that kind of shit, just because I ran out of time and I wanted to do the podcast and not make people wait. But I would argue that Holtz's opponents in his first 6 games were much stronger than Coach Freeman in the first 6 games. And he had to play number 2 Alabama and number 3 Michigan. So those are some interesting nuggets to think on. And Holtz finished the season 5-6 with a losing record. Okay, he only had wins against Purdue, like we mentioned, against Air Force, Navy, SMU, and actually at USC. We won 38-37 at USC. So that kind of, I think, took them in a high level trajectory, that year, versus where Notre Dame ended up in 87, doing much, much better. So that's kind of something I wanted to share and just kind of shed some light, shed some numbers on beyond just the first 6-game record of Holtz versus Coach Freeman. I wanted to break down a little bit more of the numbers, looking at some of these scores of these games. Who are these opponents? What were they doing? And really quantify who really had a tougher go of it. And I will say without question that the quality of opponent Notre Dame faced in 86 was much more difficult for Holtz than it was for Coach Freeman this season. I will flat out say that. Anyway, let's move over to this UNLV game. So Adam will be at the game, of course. Someone else who wishes to reach out to me on Twitter at faithful_Irish or via email at fightingirishfaithful@gmail.com if you would like tickets to this game. But the game for everyone else who will not be at said game is on Peacock. Squawk, squawk. Yes, Peacock. Hooray! Why it's not an NBC? Well, because, I don't know. Notre Dame's probably getting more money or something. Who knows?
NBC is greedy.
NBC is greedy. But yeah, should we be concerned about Notre Dame and versus UNLV? Well, maybe. What did I do? I always do the normal thing. Let's break down UNLV. They're coached by Marcus Arroyo, who's in his 3rd year. Last year, they were 2-10, not very good. But right now, they're 4-3. They have a winning record. Now, they haven't really played too many teams. They've only played one Power 5 team, and they lost, right? And I think that was Cal. But they're surprisingly, Coach Freeman has a better record. A 43% win percentage versus Marcus Arroyo's 32% win percentage. For your recruiting average, it's not even close. It's the worst of any opponent. It's actually slightly better than Marshall. Marshall was 86th in 24/7 Sports. UNLV is 87.5 the last 4 years. Sagarin is ranking UNLV 115th versus Notre Dame is still in the top 25 of Sagarin, but it's because they have a strength of schedule of 20th. If I go through the numbers, and I won't bore everybody with everything, but if I just look at the offensive stats specifically, the top 4 offensive stats, total touchdowns, passing touchdowns, scoring offense, rushing touchdowns, UNLV is better than Notre Dame in all of them. Now, it's interesting as you flip over to defense, and Notre Dame's almost better than them in the defensive category. So, hooray, good job, defense and Al Golden, right? And I must reiterate, like, we can be pissed at long passes and missed tackling, but look, Stanford scored on only their first drive a touchdown. Every other drive after that, they were out of the end zone. They had to settle for field goals, which is a really, really, really good thing. That really is good. Okay. So we would like them to have 0 points, but to only have 1 touchdown. And then what that means is there was an adjustment made. Now, I'm not intelligent enough and do not have the time afforded to me to go through and watch film and understand what said adjustment was. But if it's me reading the tea leaves here in my mug, what's really scotch tea leaves, they don't really make scotch out of tea leaves, barley. But you guys get my point. There was an adjustment made.
Yeah, I watched the replay just not too long ago before I came on here on Peacock, and I could tell in the second half Stanford was attacking the edges more, going after our corners because they were just whipping tackles. They weren't trying to run it up the middle like they were in the first.
Right. Yeah, because we plugged it up and we made an adjustment, and then Stanford's like, okay, well, we'll just pass the ball. But my point is, we kept them out of the end zone from a touchdown standpoint, and that is a good thing. So, but anyway, the game's on Peacock, and UNLV has got some decent decent weapons. What's interesting is their red zone touchdowns. They score 72% of the time a touchdown in the red zone. And red zone scoring, they score 84% of the time. Both are better than Notre Dame. They're better at passing than we are. They've just scored more points in general. Grant, they played one more game. But the efficiency pieces, which I always talk about, yards per point, UNLV, yards per point, 12.3. Notre Dame is 16. They're significantly more efficient on offense than we are. Rushing attempts.
What is their D line average weight?
I do not have that. But I imagine it is less than Notre Dame.
You think?
I do think. Now, I'm not gonna go to Vegas and put some money on it, but I do think that they weigh less than Notre Dame.
There you go, line. Get some fire in your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Eat a hot pepper, right? There you go. But yeah, the UNLV is also more efficient in the rushing game. Their rushing attempts per touchdown, 18.3. National champions are 16, so they're not, obviously I'm not saying UNLV's national champion, but from an efficiency standpoint, the numbers are what they are. Now, what's surprising is that the passing attempts per touchdown, Notre Dame is better than UNLV, which is weird because we're talking about Drew Pine here. But TeamRankings.com is giving Notre Dame a 95% chance of winning this game, and we are favored right now by 25 points. Is that even realistic?
Why? Based off what?
I said the same thing. Now, from some of the brief research I've done on how they figure out this crap, they quote unquote run simulations. And I think like ESPN, for example, right? They have their FPI or something, and it's like the football power index, I think. And how they build the model to run these simulations, who knows? But per ESPN, they run the simulations 10,000 times, and then that comes out with a number. Okay, but for me, it's like, well, what are the input variables? But rather than get into all the math about it, like that's one example of how ESPN does some of their breakdown. Right, they have some guru that is programming something. They hit go, they run it a bunch of times, and it's like, hey, this is statistically what should happen. So I don't know. But yeah, that's that. So I'm getting kind of near the end of the page here. If anyone else has anything hot on their tongue that they wish to share with the world.
I got one more thing before I jump off and go to bed. I don't understand how the former teammates of Tommy Rees are so. How are they justified defending this guy? I mean, I understand that they're his teammate, they're his friend, but there's no excuses for this. And I see former players of when Tommy played, Golick Jr.,
Robbie Toma. You can call him out. Come on.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be rude to Robbie Toma, because there's a special place in my heart for him and the success of the 2012 team. Okay. But I'm with you. It's like, are you even watching what's happening on this field? Like, you don't have to. I don't expect Robbie Toma or anybody that's a former player to come out and just like lambast him and say, oh, he's a bum and he's not doing well. No, just say nothing.
But you got Robbie Toma saying, if you haven't watched film or you don't know how to watch film, don't say anything.
I don't give a shit. I don't have to do any of that shit. I have to just look at the fucking scoreboard.
That's what everybody says. Like, you don't have to.
It doesn't fucking matter.
Analyst. Yeah. But according to Robbie Toma, if you don't know how to watch film, you have no say. That's his logic, which is
so. What
bullshit.
About us that like Kevin and me, who do know how to break down film and still have major issues?
Yeah, what are the analytics of film breakdown? What? But just because we didn't do it in the fucking Goog? I'm serious. I
guarantee if you give this film to Sarkeesian, he's gonna rip us a new one.
He'll just laugh, and just be like, "Yeah, this is why I beat your asses in 2014, half drunk."
Before I jumped on here, I watched the game again, and I could see all the missed blocking assignments, all the missed tackles. But it's the same thing I saw Saturday night. Like, why do I have to analyze film, Robbie? It's just, yeah, it pisses me off when they say stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, I don't want to be unkind to any former players here on this show, but if I take an analytical approach and I'm unbiased in that approach and I'm looking at numbers and data, and we have other people that contribute to the show that know a thing or two about football, okay, in the here and now. And at the end of the day, look, you can spin this two ways till Sunday. We lost to a shitty Stanford team. Okay, this isn't we lost to a really good Ohio State team. Okay, and how the fuck we stayed with them and we're up at halftime, I don't know. But that team versus what we saw on this past Saturday against Stanford, not the same. Okay, so I'm going to flat out say that Robbie Toma needs to recheck himself, okay, and look at the bigger picture here. We lost the game. If you think that performance on Saturday was adequate, I'm sorry. I may suggest that you go see a doctor or something, or take this cup down to HR. I'm serious. Get a clue, man. this
I
team
think
is
he-
not in a
I
good
think he'd
spot
have-
right now.
I think he'd have a spot to talk, is if we barely squeak the win out, and he's using that same argument of, well, if you watch the film, you'd see just how poorly we actually did, even though we won the game. That to me has a stronger argument than the flip side that actually happened, where we lost the game, and he's telling people to go look at film.
We lost the game. It doesn't matter how well you did. Like, you know, like that's like saying, looking at the Bush push game, be like, oh, look how great we were. Like, no, you still lost the game. Like, and that's kind of a throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of comment. But it's like go back to 2015, right? Like, people were like, oh, we were so close we almost beat Clemson, right? Or, you know, some of these other close games, like, oh, we were so close, we almost beat Florida State, if not for a shitty call by the refs. It's like, it doesn't fucking matter. You lost the game, okay? And at some point, like, there was an execution that the other team was better, okay? And like, some of those games were really close, and that's fine. But it's like, look, the defense let Florida State come back in the second half, right? And Notre Dame got off to a really, really, really slow start in the 2015 Clemson game. Okay, so go back and watch that film, right? So, so we can spin it two ways till Sunday. At the end of the day, this show is always going to be, number one, honest. We're going to be realistic, and we're going to call it like it is, and we're going to be very evidence-based. The evidence is showing that there's a lot of problems, and that a lot of those problems exist on the offense. And people who are critical of Reese or Pine or just the overall performance and the output of our offense, it's nowhere close to the standard of where Notre Dame should be. So, I don't know. I don't want to talk shit about Robbie Toma. You know, like, I respect him very much. Okay, and he is welcome anytime on this podcast. Okay, not to debate, but just to, you know, get his insight, you know, as a player or something, you know.
The other side of it too is seeing how heated all of us are. I think it adds another log to the fire to all of us to see just how, like you said, coach speak that Marcus Freeman is. Like, I'm sorry, this game is about passion. And I have a tough time. I mean, you heard me how many F-bombs I dropped on Saturday. Like, I was livid, and I'm still heated. But for me to know it from my standpoint, this isn't my career. If it was my career, I'd be even more heated.
That's the
Marcus
thing,
Freeman,
right?
Like, I'm sorry. Okay, maybe after the game, you're trying to, let me go look at the film. Like, yeah, I'd probably be a hermit on Sunday. And I'd be going through film, and I'd be, you know, marking, you know, timestamps on, okay, here's something that's glaringly obvious that we fucked up on. But I literally don't understand how on a Monday, after you have digested that film, that you can sit there and say, no, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I would have an
And maybe I'm not saying Robbie Toma
be,
or some of these other guys are saying that, but it sounds like Coach Freeman saying something like that, and that ain't right, man. That ain't right. So, well, a couple of quick things here, and then we'll kind of go around the horn and let people get their last comments. So, again, reminder, if anyone wants to go to the UNLV game, I know we're kind of probably not painting it the best light on this podcast, but we did have a connection here. If someone would like to go, they are good seats. Got 4 tickets available, free, no money, no nothing. It's just kind of happened. I can't go. So 4 tickets to the UNLV game. Hit me up on Twitter. Send me a DM at faithful_Irish or an email at fightingirishfaithful@gmail.com. And basically they'll be yours. And we'd rather give it to Notre Dame fans than UNLV fans, right? So there it is. And since we're kind of dealing with misery, I'm going to put myself through something kind of like that. So last year I ate a crazy hot pepper. It was a 7-pot lava yellow, about 1 million Scoville, before the USC game. Or actually, excuse me, well, it was before the game, but it was during the podcast. Now, I'm not going to eat a hot pepper right now, but some people at work, we are doing the 1 chip challenge. So I hope to have some video of that, and look for that on Twitter and on the YouTube channel. And that is it. I'm not doing it alone. I'm doing it with some other coworkers, but yeah.
Nice.
I ate I had to harvest the rest of the peppers and the tomatoes in the garden tonight because we got snow here in Indiana this morning, which was crazy. But yeah, so I harvested the rest of the peppers and tomatoes in the garden this afternoon. And while I'm out there, I ate a Scotch bonnet raw, so it's a little spicy. So, but it wasn't that bad considering that I'm conditioning myself for what's to come on Thursday. 1 chip challenge, bring it. I'm ready. As ready as I'll ever be.
I have one question for you guys that I don't want to make it take too long, but when do you start playing underclassmen and thanking the 5th, 6th year seniors and kind of getting that experience for the future?
Saturday.
Yeah, I would say this week because of the production. You ride the hot hand, and right now they've got the production.
I mean, in theory, against these weaker opponents, yeah, you should have the ones going in there, kill them, get up by 28 points, whatever, and then you start rotating the young guys in. Like, that's what good teams do. So
I'm talking even outside of that because we're not a good team.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. So I would argue that based on opponent and likelihood of success, it would be this weekend as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't even worry about who the opponent is. I honestly would just look at where's my production and let me start harnessing the power of that playmaker, and let's start getting these guys the ball. Let's up their touch time, because I want to see if he ran 2 plays and scored on 50%, could have laid out and caught the other one. You know, that right now is way better than anything Brandon Lindsay's done. So I'm sorry. At this point, bench his ass. Forget the milk carton. I don't even want to find him. Like,
overthrowing out the milk.
Let's get Merriweather out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's you know, it kind of sucks that this is kind of like where we're going. We're like, well, maybe we should play the young guys to help you know, us prepare for the future. So.
Well, you said it yourself. The recruiting value of Merriweather. Sorry.
Yeah,
that right there tells me everything. Let's start
95.
This ship
He's
moving.
a 95.
Sorry, if I'm Drew Pine and I'm in the huddle and every play slant, post, corner. I don't care if I got to walk up, break the huddle early, and show him exactly where he needs to line up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's you know, it's my hope that, you know, and Jason, you said this, that Drew Pine, I think, has the potential for some good leadership qualities. And, you know, when times get tough, that's where I think the true colors show, and who are the leaders and who is able to demand excellence and success of this team. And so I don't know who that is. So
we are halfway through the season and still don't know who that is.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Well, we'll go around the horn here. Jason, anything else other than what you've said? Thank you very much for joining us today at JYager9 on Twitter. Thank you for all your contributions. Any last thoughts and words?
No, go Irish. Looking forward to a good game Saturday, hopefully.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Go Irish. Beat Rebels. Mark, we'll bring you back on here. If and you've got anything last minute thoughts, probing questions, would you rather type questions, or if nothing else, forever hold your peace.
No, just play the best player you got.
Play the best players we got. So definitely keep Mayer in there when it's a key down. Thank you, Mark. At Holzem35 on Twitter. Thank you. Well, Red Snapper, I'm giving you the final word here. I've said everything on my pages.
Hey, I said it last week. We needed a good gut check, and we had the worst version of it, but how do they rebound out of it? And I think that hopefully is what we take away on Saturday, is that the loss, as bad as it was, spurned on hopefully the production that we see on Saturday. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't want to just be negative on this podcast. We want to be realistic, number one, and factual and evidence-based. And I genuinely consider myself a positive person in general. I don't go on too many rants on this show, but tonight definitely I got fired up. So, but I have no apologies. I take full responsibility for my actions. And look, we do that because we love Notre Dame, right? And I don't doubt that some of these other people, love Notre Dame too, like the Robbie Thomas of the world, or some of these other guys, and we don't want to talk poorly of them behind their back, right? Maybe they'll figure it out eventually, but I highly doubt they listen to the show. But no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to be negative for negative sake. We're going to be constructive in our criticism. And that's what it comes down to. We say that because we love Notre Dame. If you had a relative or a good friend that was, just, not doing right by themselves, you'd say, hey, you got to pull yourself together, man. You're in a tailspin. We have to have an intervention. You may not like it. It may be uncomfortable for you. You're going to think I'm a dick. I do that because I love you. Why? Because we have expectations. If this is a family member, you say, hey, you owe me something. We got the same last name. All right? You owe me to do better for yourself. We are all part of Notre Dame. These guys owe it to me to demand excellence and achieve excellence. And if they're not doing it, every Notre Dame fan, I don't care if you're an alum, if you're Dick Corbett, the head coach whose fucking name's on the office door or whatever, okay? Or, the people who put out millions for this Crossroad project, or some average schmo who's going to send me and thank you, schmo, for sending me an email saying, hey, I want free tickets to the UNLV game. That's totally cool, okay? But everyone is entitled to excellence. And when it doesn't happen, we demand more, and we're going to call it out. And that's where we're at. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Fighting Irish Faithful Show. Hit me up if you want those tickets to UNLV. Otherwise, they're just going to probably go to I don't know who. Thank you very much for joining us. And go Irish and beat Rebels.
Throws the ball. It is caught. Reggie Brooks. Reggie Brooks got it for a two-pointer. And Notre Dame is out in front, 17-16. Lost the ball. The pass is batted down. It's batted down by Carroll.
It's caught by Samanza. Inside the 20. Inside the 10. He's going in. Notre Dame has scored.
Dawson throws. Open receiver in the end zone. Touchdown. Notre Dame. Somehow the Irish did it.
Out of the pack, 30, 35. Goodbye, baby. At the 50, the 40, the 30, the 20, the 10. 5-5 rocket touchdown. Irish.
Tyree. Whoa. Can he get there? Tyree at the 30, 20, 10. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Woo. 98. Big ones. Zibikowski looking for a block. Cuts to the right to the 40. Gets a block. Gets to the 45, 50. Up to the 45, 40, 30. One man to beat. 20, 15, 10. He's down to the 5. Touchdown Irish.